Hey everybody. Oh my gosh, we're finally back to recording a podcast. I haven't recorded one in so long. I think the last thing I posted was with my friend Addie Ray, I believe. But today I just kind of felt like I kind of just wanted to sit down, catch up with y'all, talk about life, talk about what I've been learning, and get ready for season 2 of Live Out Love podcast. So I think the last thing I kind of posted was about the 1 year of Live Out Love. And that being said, I just want to talk about just the year of the Lord's goodness with this platform and all that He's done. Not for my glory, not for the people that's been on this' glory, but for His glory and how He's used us as vessels to just talk about Him. So I have my tea with me if you're watching the video, and it's cute. It's a little Clemson mug, and we're just gonna sit down, chat it up. I think it's funny because my first ever episode I recorded, I did it alone in my dorm bedroom on a really crappy mic, and I was talking by myself, and I remember being kind of quiet because I didn't want my roommates to be like, "What are you doing?" you know. And I posted that, and then I listened back at it, and I was like, "Wow, this is really bad." But then it's just so cool to see how much it's grown since, um, to just, like, having now learning about the audio and that I can talk in a mic that's, like, gonna, like, not be fuzzy and can hear me thanks to this cute little mic if you're watching the video. It's so adorable. My Yeti, my blue Yeti. But yeah, I'm gonna pray us in. Pray me in. It's kind of funny now talking without someone next to me, but yeah. Jesus, I just pray for this episode. And I just pray for it to just be a fun episode of just getting to tell the people listening about you and your love and what you have taught me this past couple months. And I just pray that as we continue to grow the podcast, I just pray that you just, your faithfulness just keeps growing. And I pray that the people that keep coming back on it will just be people that spread your love and your word and just give such wise wisdom and advice to the people listening. We love you, Jesus. Amen. So I should have grabbed my notebook. Might have to pause this to grab this. This is very just kind of real. But to talk about the year of the podcast that sorry, I'm not editing that. The one thing you should probably know by me by now is that I have not edited a single podcast. And when people come on the podcast and like list or like they come on to talk, they're like, "So like you can edit this out?" And I'm like, "No, it's raw." But that's what my favorite part of this podcast is, that it's real and that y'all are hearing our real conversation. And when I tell people to come on, I'm like, no, where it's just like us having a conversation about Jesus, and it's not going to be edited because why be edited when you can just hear the real thing? That's kind of my thing. And it also helps me so I don't have to edit things. So maybe it's a lazy part, but also I really like that it's real. And that's just my main goal this year is just like to be real. I think in a lot of settings I've been like that. You probably heard this if you listened to the past episodes, but I joined a sorority my sophomore year of college. And I think my main goal was to join the sorority, but also to show like my real true self in that. Because I think in the past I've struggled with just like my just like identity around people of like wanting to fit in, wanting to show them that I'm cool or that I can do what they're doing, or even though I'm not athletic at all, that I can want to have fun playing sports or playing games and stuff like that. But when I joined the sorority, I just made a promise to myself of like, no, I'm gonna be real, authentic. And now I'm chaplain of that, and it's been really fruitful. But I just every time people come to like the Bible studies for HIII, I just tell them like I'm real. Like I'm not perfect. you're not perfect. No one's perfect. Like, the only person that's perfect is the Lord. And that's what I'm all about, is like, we all sin. Like, we all mess up. And if you're real and honest about it, like, that's how we learn from our past mistakes and like all that type of thing. And so that's what I've been trying to like speak on this podcast too for like next season, is just like the realness of just like college life. Like, honestly, the past couple of months I haven't, maybe it's been 3 months, March 5th. So it's been a month since I like posted. But like being in college, but also like having a platform or wanting to like minister and just like show the love of the Lord is really hard. And like a lot of times I struggle with it because we're all dealing with our own things. And it's so hard because when you're growing in that, you also want to show people like what you're learning. And I think that's where I'm at right now, of just like what I'm learning is what I'm speaking on this podcast, and like having the guests come on um just like talk. I am so inspired by them. Like, if no one listens to the podcast, having those guests come on and talk, I listen to it then and I re-listen to the episode. I'm like, I learned so much. Like, I have so many notes from just like different guests. Like, shout out to Anna Beatles. I think her podcast, she came on at the beginning of when I started this, about singleness. It just was so helpful, and just waiting in singleness. And that was just really helpful of just my walk with faith and my season of life that I was in when I listened to that. So I recommend that podcast. Another one would be with Eden Benton. She just talked about how she just gave the Lord her life, her plan, and was like, Lord, like, writing a blank page. I have it over here. Handing you, Jesus, a blank page of my life. And she like wrote a little paper, wrote that down, and signed a signature, and was like, that's all for you, Lord. Um, so that really stuck with me. I think right now in my season of life, because as a sophomore, I think you're in this in between of like, what am I supposed to do with my life when I'm older? I'm not a freshman anymore. Like, it's not new to me. I'm kind of stuck in this like awkward position. And my boyfriend's kind of talked to me a lot about that too, of like sophomore year, you're just kind of like in this rut almost. And you overcome it. Like, I think right now I'm overcoming it. But for a while, I was struggling with like, okay, like, is this the right major for me? Are my friend group like are we gonna like keep hanging out, keep doing things? Like, I would think I'd always like wait for the next thing of like, oh, we're gonna hang out this time. Oh, like, I don't know, like, you're on your own, like, you're in an apartment in your own room, like, you're not on campus, and all these different changes, I think I really questioned a lot. And so when Eden talked about just like giving the Lord like a blank page of your life, and during a season like the season of being a sophomore in college, like, that has helped me so much. So if you are a sophomore, or if you're just in an awkward like transition season or whatever, I encourage you to just pray and really just journal about all the goals for your life and what you need to just like get through, and just like write them down and just be like, Lord, I'm giving you a blank page. Like, this is all for you, no matter what. And kind of like segregating into more of like, this is all for you. I had a realization a couple of days ago. I um, work for the Clemson football team now. Great opportunity. But I remember I had to wake up really early for the spring game. It was like 6 a.m. Got up, and I remember waking up. This was literally like last weekend. I woke up and I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I getting up so early? Like, what is this for? What is the real reason this is for? And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, if I didn't have the Lord in my life, like, none of this would be worth anything. Like, none of this is anything. And it just really put in perspective of just like why we are Christians, why we have a relationship with Jesus. And it's because like we put him in every aspect of our life. Like, let our entire life be worship. Um my first episode that I talked on, I said about the song by Bethlehem Music, Let My Life Be Worship. Such a good song. Everyone should go listen to it. But I remember just being like, talking about like, let every aspect of your life just be worship for the Lord. And so waking up in that moment, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to be happy that I get to wake up early and I get this opportunity because the Lord gave it to me. Like, this is another reason that I get to wake up, because I get to just like live in this worship of the Lord, like in every aspect of my life. I get to worship the Lord on a football field. I get to worship the Lord and talk about Jesus to these people around me. Like I get to worship the Lord when I'm walking to class on my own, listening to a podcast. I get to worship the Lord when I'm on the beach on spring break with my friends. And that is just such a cool thing to think about, that in every aspect of your life, he's always with you. And when you don't think he's with you, like, oh, he's there, like that's a cool perspective too, of just like when you're at a date function, he's with you. He wants to be with you. He's not judging you. He wants to like see you having fun with your friends and understand you and be with you in those hard moments after the date function. Or he wants to be with you in the breakups that you might have, or drama in your friend group, or different things that's going on with your family, or the stress about not getting the job that you thought you were going to get after that interview went really good. He wants to be in every aspect. And I think I've been reading Luke, and I'm going to turn because this is where all of this kind of sprung up in my head, because the morning I woke up at 6 a.m., I read this and I was like, it all put it in perspective, So in Luke chapter 6, my little Bible, this is what it looks like, the Jesus Bible. It's really cute. I really like the color. This is weird. I feel like I'm talking so different now because I'm like talking on my own. Like there's no one next to me, so I don't know how to talk now. But I'm going to read you guys the passage. So Luke chapter 6, and it starts at verse 46. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? As for everyone who comes to me and hears my word and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They're like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood came, the torrent struck that house, but could not shake it, because it was well built. But the one who hears my word and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, wow, I really can't speak. The moment the torrent struck the house, it collapsed and its destruction was complete. My favorite thing is the gospel and is the parables of Jesus. And that thing right there, when I read it that morning, I think it just hit me when I was like, if I'm just reading that to just read it and check it off my list, but not like put that into practice of every day of my life, none of it's worth it, And it's like, if I'm just reading it to read it, what's the point? If I'm just going to work, what's the point? And it really just hit me in this perspective of like, no, like Jesus wants to be in every aspect of my life. Like he wants you to read your Bible, but apply that throughout your day so you just understand what a firm foundation in the Lord is. And that hit home. And it's such a basic concept, but like when you really truly think about it and just think about like what you do in a mundane day, or what you do in a one exciting day of waking up really early, and you're waking up and you're like, what am I doing? Like, but when you put it in the perspective of like being like in worship, in company, in the presence of Jesus, doing that stuff, it changes your whole perspective. It really does. Like for instance, I was studying for exam about 10 minutes ago, and normally I put on this little playlist. It's like in my Rory Gilmore girl era. And it's like, because, she like went to Yale, right? Yale? I could be wrong. I haven't watched Gilmore Girls in so long, but she was very studious, and all the music very like classical or chill, like indie music. So like when you're doing your homework, like you're not distracted. So normally I play that playlist. I don't know who it's by, but it's a good playlist if you ever need to look that up for school. But instead of that playlist tonight, I was writing down like my notes, like rewriting my notes to study for an exam. And I put on Moments, the new Bethel Music album. Oh, you can just feel the presence of the Holy Spirit in that album. It's crazy. It's so uplifting. And so I just think it's so cool to just sit in the worship of the Lord and just understand like what he's doing. And in the mundane of studying, like I got to play just like a worship album, and my studying turned into like a worship session. Sometimes I think I have a lisp. My studying turned into a worship session, and it was just so cool how like the mundane things get better when you put the Lord in them. You know? That's just something that I've been really working on. But ever since I posted my 1 year of my podcast, my like little posts, I had a photo shoot. Shout out Emma League for doing that. She's amazing. Love her to death. But it really just got me thinking of like what the podcast was for. And I think I had to stop and not record for a while and just take time of why I'm doing the things I'm doing. And I think that goes hand in hand with like serving on different things. Like I was really praying about if I should like serve on different serving teams through different campus ministries and stuff for the following year. And I just like prayed about it. And I just feel like sometimes, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but sometimes we put so much on our plate to say we're putting it on our plate, but we're not doing it for the real reason of actually serving the Lord and being in company with him and honoring him to like bring more believers and to glorify him and his kingdom and what he's doing here on earth with different campus ministries and with my podcast. And so I really just, after I posted that post, I just sat back and I was like, Lord, if you want me to stop this podcast, if I'm using it for the wrong reasons, like tell me. If you don't want me to do a campus ministry, tell me, all this stuff. And I really just felt him speaking that sometimes it's okay to take a step back and just look at things in perspective and not, so you're not doing them for the wrong reasons. And it hit me so well because I'm like, if you're out there and you're struggling with wanting to do all these campus ministries or wanting to do all these things, but you don't have time and you think you're just like rushing your whole life, like it's okay to take a step back, breathe a second, and just be in the presence of Jesus and just be in a relationship with him for a little bit and grow and just be in a season of growing. And I think that's what he called me. That's just such a, great word. But I think what he was trying to tell me was like, just like take a step back and just be in my presence and just learn and grow. It's okay to learn and grow and not always having to be like doing some different thing. And so for the month of March, I just took a step back and learned and grew from him and didn't record any episodes just to understand like the real reason of why I had this podcast. And it's not for my selfish desires at all. It's for him. And I wanted to make that clear in my heart. Because a lot of times, like when you're on like a platform like that, it can be like easy to like be like, oh, this is my platform. Like, oh, I am getting those followers. Like, oh, like so many people are listening to this. Or sorry, around 9 o'clock when I'm recording this is when I start getting a coughing attack. I don't know why, but so bear with me as I might be coughing. But it's really hard sometimes being on that platform and not, you can use that for wrong things. And so I was really thankful for taking a step back for a little bit and not recording episodes and just being in that presence with him. And I think that's what he wants me to do for continuing this year of just like taking a step back from things and sitting and learning and growing and being the student and other people guiding me, other people teaching me. So I'm excited to see where the podcast goes for the following year as I have new people coming on to grow and teach us and all that. But I just think it's really cool that sometimes you need a heart posture check of like what you're doing. And I needed that of like why you're on a platform. Platforms are scary. Like social media is intense. And sometimes I love it. Sometimes I wish I was that influencer that, like, could post all those fun day in the life TikToks, and I've tried that, and I just can't keep up. Like, I love social media, but sometimes it's really hard to, like, take things for granted and only be doing it for the platform. So my intention was for the month of March to not be only doing certain things for the podcast, for the platform. I wanted to be doing them for Jesus and for growing and learning and building friendships and learning from my friends, learning from other people, which has been so fun and so inspiring this past month. I'm drinking chamomile tea right now. It's very good. So I think that's really all that I really wanted to touch on and just update you guys on life and what I've been learning and reading Luke, which has been really fun. And I just wanted to tell you guys, like, it's okay to take a step back and just learn and grow and have a season of that. But if you take anything away from this podcast episode, I hope you take away that just try to put the Lord in every aspect of your life and let your life be a place of worship, and think about the mundane things, think about the hard things, and know that if you are reading your Bible and you are learning His Word, you're taking that and putting it into a firm foundation. And those hard things, those mundane things, those joyful things are going to be even better because you have the Lord with you. I loved everyone listening. And I just can't wait for season 2 of this and just starting out more of the calling of my life, honestly, which it sounds so cheesy to say. I think it's cheesy. You guys might not think it's cheesy, but like, I always love talking and doing stuff on social media. So I think it's so fun that I'm blessed with a place that I can talk about Jesus on it. But I want you guys to know that no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I want to be so real with y'all. I hope you guys learn to be real with others, especially with your rock of faith. If you want someone to hold you accountable, be honest with them. And if you're struggling with something, go to someone and tell them that you're struggling, and just like, and get help. It's not, sometimes sometimes when you're in a position, say you're like on a servant team or you're like a leader or something of an organization, or you have your own podcast, sometimes it's really hard to say that you need help or say that you need advice, but we're all growing and learning. We're all not perfect. So if you go to your accountability partner or someone that you really trust, and if you have struggles, it doesn't even have to be like Christian struggles. If you were just going through something right now, I don't know, I just felt like it's okay to get help. It is okay. And I think a lot of times I need to learn that too, because sometimes I'm like, I'm very independent. So sometimes I'm like, oh no, I can do it on my own. It's fine. But no, like, you don't always have to do it on your own. Like, you can be with one another in your struggles. And I think that's what makes such amazing communion and fellowship too, is bonding over that and learning how to grow through different things. And that builds friendships too. That was a random piece of advice. But yeah, well, I love you guys. And I am so excited again. Why do I keep saying this, for season 2 of the podcast? Also, I'll probably link this down below. But if you did not know, Maddie Pruitt started a podcast recently. And it is one of the most amazing podcasts I've listened to in a long time. I think her and Maya May Huff's podcast are probably my favorite right now. And the Authentic podcast by Lauren Beyer. She was on my podcast a couple of months ago. But Maddie's is so good. So if you guys want another podcast to listen to, it's called Stay True Podcast. I love it. I walk to class every day, and I listen to it, and it's so good. She's just very wise, and I think on Instagram, I, like, saw some of her reels and I was just like, "Oh, she's just posting a post," but when you really listen to her podcast, she's amazing, she's so wise, her books are so good too. So if you need something to listen to and you're bored, definitely check her out. She's amazing. I hope you guys have a great week, and, DM me if you need, like, any prayer or, DM me if you would like any new topics to be talked about, or if you have, like, a guest, or if you wanna come on the podcast, DM me. I always love encouragement, recommendations, advice, all that. Love you guys.